So we want to use it because I'm not comfortable with Zoom in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I'm. I can understand that.
So it's just, as a company, we don't want to use software that does what I believe Zoom does, and there are plenty of alternatives. You just have to get it set up properly.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Fair enough. All right. So, okay, we're recording. Everyone, put on your best smiles. George, do you want to try again?
Yeah, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, loud and clear, man.
Yep.
Oh,
Also, this
That's
Rajiv
strange
guy
how
is
that
joining our
works.
call again. Holy shit. Doesn't get a hint.
so
Who's Rajiv?
He's our new security guy. Started today.
At least he's claiming to be. We're not sure.
Wait, we're gonna need a signature. Cryptographic signature.
You want to verify this?
All right, George, the stage is yours.
So,
You want to start over? We missed everything.
Yeah, I want to present you the Status Quo library, which will contain all the UI components of Status. I want to start with the not most important thing, project structure. I decided to divide it in 4 main parts. First will be the components. It will be the root of all UI components. The second part is design tokens. It contains all the color, spacing, typography. Maybe we'll include other parts which together will compose into how UI components are created. For each component, we will create previews. A preview is a screen which will show how to use a component, and also it will have a Cartesian product of all possible properties. So with this Cartesian product, we will generate all possible views. Then we can use this to make some automated testing. And the root part will be the core namespace, which will have all the public components, because some components may be constructed from over smaller. We don't want to give access to status to these smaller components because they will be maybe modified in a with a breaking change API. And if they are used inside only status quo, it will be easier to maintain them. And we will export via core namespace all the components which will have a more stable API. Also in the root, we will contain, we'll keep all the library wrappers, like we have a wrapper for React Native, reanimated for gesture handler and other libraries that we can possibly see. And you can see here a root a tree view of how it is right now. It is has 3 folders and only closure files. How to use status quo? First of all, we'll need to use all components only from Quo core namespace. All the components should be designed in a layout isolated. What it means? It means that a component should not anyhow affect other components that are nearby. For example, a component should not have align self. Why this is bad? Because if we have a component which we say that should align self start, if we contain it in a column and in a row in 2 different places, it will align in different spaces. So if we want an element to start to align, for example, on the top, we will align it in where we use it. We can add custom tiles to align in a specific place. But if we will add the align self for example, in the middle, it will in different places will look different. So this is this can show us some cases that we did not expect, and it's easier. It's harder to test them because in our testing environment we cannot use all the possible states. Also, we should avoid external margins because if an element has some margin, we cannot remove it. But it's easier to add external margin by wrapping a specific component in a view which will have margin or padding. To document and check that props are correct, we will use closure spec. For now, only 2 components which I've implemented have closure spec, and I'm just testing how it will work. There is a problem with using preconditions with closure spec that we don't know. We will have an assertion failed, but in this assertion we cannot see what properties failed. So we'll need to have a specific wrapper which will show that what specific check will fail. Also, for each new component that we will add, we need to create previews. Previews, I will show on the next slides how they are made. To make easier the app, to make easier the status quo to be separated and to avoid circular dependencies, better to not use the code from the status app. On the day when we will decide to separate it as a separate library, it will be harder to follow up all the dependencies that we have and to re-implement them. But if we, from the beginning, will avoid requiring this code from the status, it will be easier in future to maintain it. Also, we should use always the design tokens from design system namespaces, because having hard-coded sizes will make harder to follow up with the Figma. For example, designer will change the standard line height for a font. Then we will need to find all the places where we use the line height, and we will need to change it. But if we use the design system tokens, then we will change in one place, and it will change all the other places and all components that use it. I want you to show a demo of how status quo app is right now. So let me start from the beginning. It's the status quo app is auto-generated, and it is generated from the domain-specific language in Eden. You will see an example in next slide. So this is example how we have preview for text. On the top, we have some selects which we change, and it shows a next line of how component is used. Can you see the video? Sorry.
No, the video's
No.
not.
No, it
The
doesn't
video's
work.
not working here.
Could you put? Oh, never mind. Never mind. Later, could you put the video in core or something in the channel?
Yeah, I will put a link to the video in core. So, sorry for that.
Yeah, it's
Then
okay.
let
It's
me
just
skip
frozen.
the video, and I will show you. I think, but you, yeah, I think my screen is frozen
Yeah.
because I switched slides. I can't see them.
So back to Jitsi.
Don't fucking annoy me.
I'd say just, yeah, do that and then reshare, and it should come back.
Maybe the video right now will work. Yeah, yeah. This is the demo
go.
of. Here on top, you will see some selectors which you can toggle and change the style of the component. And here is, you can see the component how it changed based on the fields.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is a demo of how of the text input, how we can toggle different fields, different properties, and it will change the style of the text input. This is auto-generated, and it is most useful for the new people and for designers to do design review and see how a component will work in different states.
Sorry, what? I just saw secure true false. What does that mean?
Yeah, secure true false. It means that we want a field to be a secure text input. This means that we want to have, for example, a password, and it will hide the text input which we have on the field. Also, it will add the icon. It will add this icon. Yeah, when you press it, you will see text. When it is not pressed, the text will be hidden.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. It is most useful for the new devs and for the designers. It can be also used for the UI testing. I will show you an example next. Also, we can change the light theme and dark theme on the main screen, and we can see how our component works in different themes. Here is an example with the dark theme. As you can see, we have a lot of auto-generated examples. These examples can be used for testing in future. Right now, the testing is not created, but because we generate Cartesian product of all possible states, we can then use it for generating automated testing. How a preview that we see right now is generated is just a hash map. We have a label. A key is in our case with text was a property of a text input, and the type. Right now I've implemented 3 types: it's Boolean, text, and the multi-select that we've seen in the previous demo. Future work is migrate all the components that we have right now in Status and to separate them into this library, and after that to implement them. This is a list of the next components that we want to migrate. And the last step will be to create automated testing when all components will be ready. This is an example of how automated testing will look. We will have screenshots of the, for example, developer branch and the screenshot of the current branch. And we will using some automated tools for computer vision, we can check the differences in the images. So we can see that in this image, the font weight changed from bold to regular, and we can see these red squares, which shows us what was changed on the screen. Based on some amount in percentage of error, we can check how much changed. For example, because the time on phone is different, this is a really small change. So we can add an error of up to 5% if the image differs by only 5%. It is a true past test. If it is more, then it means that too much content changed on the screenshot. So it will trigger an error, and the UI, we will need to check what in the UI was changed, was broken, and to change and fix it. If something is was updated and it's expected to break test because the new state is correct, after merge into the develop branch, we will use these new screenshots as base, and we will compare all the new changes to these new screenshots. That's it that I have at the moment.
Well freaking done. That's amazing. Great work.
Oh, is that all?
That is really, really good.
Awesome job.
All right. So if you could pass over the link to the slides, that'd be great. So we can include it in the notes for other folks who want to kind of review the slides again. Next up, we're going to look at some specs. first, is Roman here?
I saw him.
Yeah.
I saw him join the room.
Yeah,
there you
he's here. Hey, Roman.
Hi.
So you wrote the keycard spec, right?
Oh, kind of. I wrote like few things about how we communicate with the keycard, and well, few words about what's the difference compared to a regular account. I'm not sure what else could be added there. We have a separate document for like library API. Also, Andrea wanted to add something there.
I think this is the most important part, is how the app communicates with the keycards, so
Uh,
someone else
I'm-
can implement it if they want to.
Well, yeah, that's it. I'm not sure what to add to this definitions section, because it probably would be better if someone who has never touched this part to read it and ask what's unclear there, and we will add some stuff to that section.
How are these
That-
usually done? It's just a question to everyone. Do we take like a couple minutes to review things and ask questions, or I remember last time we just went through the specs and people added feedback to them.
Well, I suppose comments on that GitHub issue would be sufficient enough. But it make it a sync, not right now, I suppose.
I just think it's important that we use this time at least to get the people who would know most about it or have the most concern to make sure that they understand. I know it exists and just spend time on it. Like, I'll take a look at it today. I think Andrea should also take a look at it.
Which Andrea?
Probably Franz.
Okay.
All right. So I'll definitely review this one as well, because I haven't looked at this yet to see if I have any questions. Okay, so next up we have the IPFS spec. IPFS gateway for a sticker pack. Actually, you know what? Let's just spend a minute to read these and see if we have any questions now, and then people can review these in more depth later. I'm just gonna like count the timer for like a couple minutes or 2 minutes. And I'll share the specs that we're discussing as we go. Probably a little bit easier. There. All right, timer's starting now.
Wait, we're actually going to read this now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I think next time we put it on a Friday or something, people can read because. All right. Okay. Whatever. Let's see.
Any questions about the spec?
I'll probably need some like supporting text that gives a little more context to what each thing is, which I can suggest.
The sticker spec?
Oh no, I was reading the keycard one. Let me go with
sorry.
sticker.
Yeah, we moved on to sticker. Sorry.
No problem.
But yeah, I'll add some comments there as well.
Yeah, a question I have about the stickers is that do we know if the IPF, the inferior gateway, does it pin the content that is put there?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Let me put it on the conversation.
I think they pin it, but they do their own management of how long a pin lasts. Because by default in IPFS, a pin is eternal, but you can unpin it at any time you want. So I would assume they have their own logic for managing that.
I was under the impression that we pinned on our IPFS node.
Well, yes, it is pinned on ours, although we have no process for doing this consistently when new packs are added and so on, which we should. This should be automatic, which wouldn't be difficult. It's just that, yeah, as long as it's pinned in our cluster, then the Infura cluster can find it or should find it if we're part of the swarm and synced properly.
Okay. I was just worried about the data persistence. Because IPFS kind of bad in that regard.
Yeah, Andre opened an issue like a few months back, and we pinned what we had then, but I don't know if we have pinned what we added since then, and which is why I mentioned the process, which we should have for that.
Okay. Looks like people have finished with the sticker spec as well. Let's move on to. Sorry, go on.
One question on that one, Andre. I'm not sure if. So my question is, does it need to be included in the spec? I'm wondering when the method to get own sticker packs is used. Like whether that's like on install as soon as we know like that the user has a given address, or when the user goes to view stickers and we check if they already have the stickers.
That's a really good question. Can you add it as a question on the PR?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I just don't know if it's a feature or if it's something that we would want to have included in the spec.
Either way, I think it's a question that needs answered, so we'll go from there.
All right. Yeah, I'll comment. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so that is. I lost the meeting notes. Where are they? There we are. That is IPFS gateway, third-party API usage. I'm going to share that PR here. So this one is well understood to me. Does anyone have any questions?
Hi, this is Rajiv here. I just had a quick comment. So I noticed that both in this spec and even in the previous one on the IPFS gateway, it looks like we specify what the concerns are, but it doesn't look like we are noting what the mitigations are.
Yeah, so the idea of the specs is so that if you wanted to implement a new status client, that you would have enough information to do it with. So we're in this regard, we're not trying to change the world. We're just trying to give out a view of the world as it is, so that you can better understand it if you want to implement a new status client.
Okay, so this is what we have done, and these are the risks. And
Yeah.
as of now, they stand. They stand unmitigated, right? You don't have.
Correct.
Okay,
I mean, obviously, we do have the Wall of Shame project, which I'm sure Corey will talk at length to you about, and that's something we need to address slowly. Like we'll chip away at those things, but for now, these are the problems that we have, or these are the third parties that we use.
Got it. Thank you.
So, can I just ask? So, the specifications are not necessarily a guideline for how we implement third parties. It's just a document detailing the third parties that exist currently.
Well, in this specific one, yes, it's
yeah. I see. I don't know if I'm getting confused between the term, like, because that seems more like a documentation than specification.
It's a bit of both.
A
Yeah.
bit of both.
In this case,
Okay.
it's more documentation. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it still fits within the specs, so that if you want to replicate the functionality, you'll know which third parties to use.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So third parties is covered. Blockchain usage, that's 106.
Is anyone talking? I can't hear anything.
You've got robot voice again, by the way.
Yeah, no one's talking, Corey, though. We're reading.
Yeah,
the thing.
folks are muted. We're just reading the spec. This is a juicy one.
All right, cool.
Yeah, one thing I would definitely like to see on this on 106 is the transaction list. I know we do some binary search there, and it would be nice to have that documented as well. So just that.
But in terms of having that documented, I mean, is it not? I mean, that's not something that it's like implementation completely. Like, there's a bit of. I think these like blockchain interactions. I mean, it's unclear exactly what we need from this, because Ethereum already provides a well-defined API, and like it's not a protocol in any shape or form. So like if we have to detail the algorithms that we use to create the blockchain, I'm not sure it's something that should leave much closer to the code, because no one is going to update these as we update the implementation.
Yeah, like that's not necessarily like, say if I wanted to make a different client, I don't need to know exactly how we do a search. I only need to know what's the reliance. Like, what do I need? I need transaction history. I need the ability to sign transactions.
But the client is like, you mean a wallet, because like a status client comes with a wallet, but there's nothing that. You see what I mean?
Like specification of, I guess ENS usernames is a good example of what the blockchain usage spec would be. It's like we rely on the blockchain for this specific purpose, and then how you want to implement it is fine. But this is the kind of the specification of like how a username maps to a blockchain lookup, and how you want to do that lookup is up to you.
Yeah, on ENS, I mean, there is some logic, some custom logic. I mean, we always defer to the contract, so I wouldn't like detail the inner working of the contract, because it's not our contract. But there are some bits that is ours. But in terms of wallet and fetching transaction and stuff like that, it's just like, I mean, it's just like we fetch transaction from Ethereum. Like that's the extent of it that someone needs to know, really.
Yeah, but on the other hand, it's like for documentation purposes, and we need to live somewhere how we do this, so that when it gets updated, or if we want to change it, people like it's that knowledge isn't trapped within a single core contributor. Like,
see, this is the spec.
Yeah, that's not spec. That's the documentation.
Yeah. I mean, some stuff, like is so visible and so important that, like it makes sense to have it maybe in specs, but these kind of stuff that, I can't see a developer updating the algorithm of how we fetch transaction from the blockchain and then updating the specs or making a proposal here. You see what I mean? It's just like, it doesn't seem like it would fit very nicely in the workflow. I think it would be much better to document that as close as the code as possible. To make it easier to update when we update the code.
That sounds to me more like an optimization. What the spec says is, here's the authoritative source for this information this call is, and maybe we use it, maybe we don't. I mean, we might have a more optimized version, but this is how you can do it as a starting point, because it should work, right? Assuming Ethereum doesn't fuck something up.
Is there another way we check for pending transactions? Because I noticed the other day, I thought it wasn't the case, that we actually do show incoming pending transactions. I'm reading here the transaction receipt, which requires the transaction hash to check for a transfer made to the user's address. So that sounds to me like a pending incoming transaction, and we only get that when we check for the transaction receipt. But I don't know, it seems like we're already showing incoming pending transactions without the transaction receipt. So I'm just wondering where that fits in, if it needs to be specified here at all.
I'm not much familiar with the code, but you would see we would have the hash of the transaction, even if it's pending, just not confirmed. Right, I guess, like I'm not very familiar, but there needs to be a record which we can fetch from blockchain, and so we would be able to identify it as such.
And if that's the case, do you see, like, would that be an extension of this specification, or is that would that be a separate spec on how we receive incoming pending transactions?
I'm not sure this is the best place. I mean, do we need to explain people how to use the blockchain here? I mean, it just doesn't feel like this is things that, like everyone has, like it's not the best place. I will refer to other documentation if that's the case.
It's called to RPC, the way how we can fetch pending transactions. And this is covered by, I don't know, Web3 documentation. So I'm not sure. I agree with Andrea. It shouldn't be covered by our specification.
Okay, got it.
All right. We can come back to this later if it becomes an issue, or if there's any more interest in figuring out how that works. Let's look at payloads image sending here. So for context, this one is going to be work that's going to start soon. Because it's part of our chat improvements work. I really hope that the lack of GIF, notice GIF and not GIF, image type was just someone forgot, because GIFs are really important.
Obviously, means fundamental functionality.
Couldn't that be just implemented through? That's rough. Like URL unfurling. Most of the time, GIFs are linked.
Well, that's content loading, and that's a separate issue altogether.
Yeah. Like, are people going to be? Yeah, it's a separate issue, I guess. Should probably be included here.
One thing I don't understand, I'll post it in the questions, is are we limiting the payload size at some point? And if we are, is there a way to have an image split up in multiple messages?
So the payload content size is at the moment, the cap is the maximum Waku Whisper a message size, which I believe is set to 1 megabyte currently.
Okay.
We talked about having multi-part, so sending multi-part messages for Whisper Waku. That's something that needs implementing. It's that's something that needs looking at. It's not so trivial because you need to understand where you want to have the multi-part, in which layer you want to have it. If it's close to Waku, but then you don't have encryption, strong encryption over that, or you put it on the encryption layer, but then whatever. It's complicated.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that we would go out at the moment currently with this. I think we talked with March. He said that images should be below 1 megabyte roughly, and we will limit that to.
Okay, it's just good to have it like documented so that we can actually reason to we have a reason to enforce it in the code and come back to have a historical decision on why this was done that way.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Seems reasonable to have a maximum size, and then for things that are greater than that, use something like link unfurling, like kind of what you do through things like Discord. Like you can only upload things of a certain size, and after that, you have to be relegated to sending a link of that thing and it unfurling appropriately within the chat context.
Yeah, that's an option. Yeah.
Like we don't want to turn into a file transfer protocol, because if we make something general enough, people will use it for that.
I mean, we're assuming that people don't do that already, because it's pretty easy to abuse the system as it stands. Like I could generate 1 megabyte long payloads and just dump them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Centralized push notifications. Posting that here. Is there a PR for this one? Spec? No. Okay. Let's see. Waku documentation. This one. Any comments, questions here?
Nothing from me yet. I'd like to spend more time going through it.
Okay.
Like not today, but just
Okay,
for myself.
Cool. All right, no problem. All right, I think. Oh yeah, last one. Depth browser API usage. That one here.
Is this this isn't changing soon, right? This is the recent change to the web view?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So this is the new one that Vitali recorded. My only questions about this are whether we can get our change upstream then, or is there a story to keep our fork up to date with upstream with the changes that we have as well.
Who's responsible for that answer? I mean, is that
That'd be
you,
Vitali.
Vitaly?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be Vitali. Yeah.
Is he here?
We have Volodymyr. I don't think we have Vitali in right now.
I do not see him, so I'll just maybe like I want to ping or make a note on that PR to ask him or
Yep.
ping him.
Yeah, I'll ping him. I'll ping him right now, actually. Well, he's been looking at the notes and everything, so I don't know why he's not in the call.
I don't see him on the notes.
No, I mean he's been replying to PR comments and things.
Oh, okay. Maybe it got cut off the calendar. You didn't see it.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. I mean, yeah, it happens. Okay. So I think that's it for specs for now, unless anyone has any other specs that they want to review or talk about.
Maybe just like how do we want to move forward with these specs that are currently in PR? Because I imagine we don't want to leave them open for too long and things change in the meantime.
Oh. Sorry. Can you repeat that?
Yeah. So how do we move forward with these PRs that are open now, so that they don't remain open for too long? Any plans on?
Yeah, just basically until Friday, like people have time to look at comments and then address them and then merge the PR into the specs repo, basically. I think any concerns we've expressed today, so give people a little bit of time to ingest and reshape and merge.
Okay, cool. So commenting and updating till Friday and merging on Friday.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Just a question on going forwards with other things that need specification/documentation. Are we going to continue to make a concerted effort to sort of address the things that currently need addressing, and then going forward, every time a new feature is written, part of the PR needs to be an inclusion of docs or specs?
Correct.
Okay. So that will be part of the review process going forward. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
I mean, you know, if you're changing colors on the button.
Yeah.
So it depends is the answer, but
yeah. No. Well,
default to let's default to yes. And then
yeah. Well, obviously there's reasonable, like the specs are fairly general, docs are supposed to be fairly general.
Yeah.
So yeah, within reason. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to present, Hester? Roadmap, key 2?
Sure. Yeah. Let me share my screen. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Not yet.
Nope.
No? All right, let's see what's going on. Select again. There we go.
There we go.
All right. Consider it a reminder. This is not wildly, if at all, different from the outcome of the roadmap planning session and what Rachel posted on Discuss. But Andre and I had some back and forth to see how this would fit on a timeline and kind of like what user-facing feature should come first or after. And based on that, what we're looking at for the coming weeks is Keycard integration and notifications on Android first. So that would be for the coming 3 weeks roughly. And please shout if there's any reason you think that's something that's not manageable or you see any like red flags there. This is very much in flux. Then after that, so notifications on Android, Keycard integration. Once we have that in a release, depending on when that would be, referrals on Android and starter pack on Android. Those are very much tied together, and those are the features that are part of the whole growth and acquisition strategy. So the sooner we can get those in, the better. There's no growth to be expected or going on before we release those features. So those are very important, but it seems like we need a bit more time to work on referrals. We still have an issue with Starter Pack on iOS. So Keycard integration, notifications on Android, followed by referrals on Android and Starter Pack on Android. Then after that, and kind of running in parallel, let me just see if I'm not missing anything in chat here. Yes, images in chat as part of that as well. So notifications on Android, Keycard integration, followed by Starter Pack, referrals, and images in chat. So those are like two buckets, and then the third bucket that could go out as kind of paired features would be Starter Pack on iOS, once we have that sorted out with the App Store and what our developer status is there, as well as a solution for notifications on iOS. And that would be opt-in centralized notifications. I believe we just skipped over specifications on that because we really don't have any specifications on how that would work yet. So I can imagine that's a little bit up in the air what the approach would be. But basically, referrals and Starter Pack are important aspects of growth and acquisition, which we really do need to get started with. Notifications, whether they are centralized and opt-in or decentralized, are critical to retention. We see a lot of comments on Play Store, App Store as well, if only it had notifications. We hear people complaining about not having notifications. If you don't get a notification, you don't open the app again. So those are, let's say, the upcoming features. Some already came out of like the latest roadmap planning session, and some were already defined beforehand. Like we didn't even bring them along in the roadmap planning session because they were already planned for, just not released yet, like Starter Pack and referrals. Do you have anything to add, Andre? Anything I'm missing?
Yeah, just to touch base on the notifications. We know for a fact that, for example, Matrix has solved the decentralized notifications problem, but the issue with that is that I don't understand how. And before kind of promising anything, I want to understand how before, and I want to understand how and document how that would look for status potentially before kind of even suggesting anything. I mean, worst case scenario, I would say that maybe we could even run our own notification service centralized, but obviously that leaks metadata. Whether that's something that's interesting for us or not is really up for debate. But yeah, ideally notifications on iOS as well will be decentralized, and we'll look at how Matrix did it. And learn from their experience.
Is it worthwhile to start like either, I mean, there is a GitHub issue, but maybe to start a discuss post just to see if anyone else has ideas on how to approach notifications on iOS?
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I don't want to just start the discuss post with like, does anyone have any ideas? I want to start with like starting a discussion there, and then, you know, having that as a starting point, I think will be a lot more productive.
Yeah.
So give me today to kind of read through that and understand how that works, and then we'll start the discussion there.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, a few things I haven't touched on, which is like I would say the more fun user-facing features that also came out of the roadmap session. So mentions ranked pretty high there. I mean, yeah, those are definitely the ones that we would want to plan for, but all after referrals and Starter Pack and notifications. That's what it comes down to, basically. Same with emoji reactions. I'm kind of considering emoji reactions and S&T reactions separately here, because S&T reactions do require signing a transaction, and we might want to put more thought into how we make it easy enough so you don't have to do that over and over. So, but yeah, no reason to not already start with emoji reactions.
Yep, agreed.
I would love to hear though, as this is all tentative, if anyone has any reservations about like this being the priorities for the coming 2-3 months. So Keycard integration, notifications on Android, investigating on iOS, starter pack, and referrals. Also happy to do like maybe just to, as this is the only remaining agenda item, maybe to like close off the call, we could do like a round table if anyone has questions or comments, and then like feel free to raise any commentary on roadmap planning and what it looks like now. Does that make sense, Andre? If we do a little
Yeah,
round
sounds
the room and the call.
I think those are the appropriate things to prioritize right now, personally.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey. Just to go by what Hangouts is telling me, Andrea, do you have any thoughts on either specifications, delivering on Friday, roadmap planning, anything else discussed?
I guess he doesn't.
All right, no news, good news. All right, shout if you had mic issues later. Andre, any comments?
No, I'm pretty happy with everything that was talked about. Yeah, it's on me to review the matrix notification model and go from there.
Okay, sounds good. Our other Andre, Flex Surfer, any thoughts? All right. No news, good news. If I'm not hearing anything, I'm assuming you're good. Corey, anything else?
I'd like to say that I appreciate the considered effort and increased attention on documentation and specs, so that we can all better understand kind of how things fit together and what we rely upon. Especially as desktop starts ramping up, I think they'll find it very useful and helpful to try and have more documentation and specifications so that they can make something. They understand how it works right now and have like feature parity moving forward whenever that gets up and running.
Absolutely.
And I find it very, very useful for helping people understand what's going on within the application when they have problems, as well as figuring out where potential risk lies and things like that. So the more stuff we do like this, the better people like me can do their job. So please keep this effort up on an ongoing process.
Thanks for raising that. Yes, very happy with all the documentation going on. Gjorge, any thoughts on either specs or roadmap?
No, nothing from me now.
Awesome.
I think these are very vocal people. We don't have to go one by one. If they had any problems, they would have mentioned by now.
All right. Yeah, you're probably right. Enough opportunity. If not, please send a message on Discord. Because I'd rather know if there's anything you'd rather see on the roadmap than if we have to deviate. Because at some point people start seeing it on Trello or they see discuss posts and we raise expectations. We're not tying ourselves to dates or deadlines. But we do want to manage expectations. So if you have any concerns, just send a message because we can surely move things around as well.
Sounds good.
Can I just mention about repo specking, repo documenting? Just to ask, will we be doing it in bursts like we've done this week? Just that I noticed that in the repos, there's a lot. I don't want to be this guy either, but there's lots of stuff that's not documented. Are we doing this again, or are we just keeping going at maybe a sort of reduced urgency, trying to maybe get X amount of packages or libraries documented or specced out as we go.
I think this is a good baseline, and we should make an effort to document any package that we touch or modify moving forward.
Okay, yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah, but definitely keep a concerted effort, like especially if you're touching parts of the code that needed work or that immediately weren't very well understood. I think that calls for more docs and more specs.
Okay. Understood.
Yep. All right. One last thing. You all look wonderful today. And thank you, everyone, for the effort and for your time. Appreciate it.
Likewise.
Cheers.
Enjoy the rest